There's a powerful lie that many people unknowingly buy into. The belief that in order to move forward, in order to begin, in order to become something greater than you are today, you need someone else's approval. You need a nod, a title, a license, a round of applause, and until that happens, you feel like you're not allowed to take action, so you wait, you linger, you stall. Because in the back of your mind, there's this invisible gatekeeper you're trying to please. Parents, friends, society, tradition, maybe even your own past failures. Let me challenge that thinking right now. You do not need permission to chase your dream. You do not need anyone to tell you that you're worthy, that you're ready, that it's time. You're not on hold. You're not in line. You're not pending approval. You've already been approved by life. The fact that you're breathing, the fact that your heart is beating, the fact that you have an idea, a fire inside you, that alone is your permission slip. That's your green light. But most people don't see it because they've been raised in a system of permission. As children, we're taught to ask, can I go here? Can I speak? Can I try this? And that mindset follows us into adulthood. So now you're grown, fully capable, but still waiting on someone to validate your steps. You have a dream, but you're waiting on someone else to say, yes, you can do it. You have talent, but you want someone else to recognize it first before you act on it. And in doing that, you're surrendering your power, you're outsourcing your authority, you're allowing someone else's opinion to become your limitation. There's a difference between guidance and permission. Seeking wise counsel, mentorship, learning from others, those are valuable. But too many confuse that with needing a stamp of approval before doing something they're already equipped to do. You can spend your whole life trying to convince others that your dream matters, that your voice is worth hearing, that your purpose is valid, and still never get the response you're looking for. So, ask yourself, who are you waiting on? Who are you giving that much power to? Who sits in the chair of approval in your mind? Because until you evict them, you'll keep waiting at a door that's already open. And here's the truth most people don't want to face. Nobody is coming to give you permission. Nobody is going to wake you up one day and say, today is the day you become everything you were meant to be. You have to do that for yourself. You have to decide that you are enough as you are to begin. It's easy to blame the lack of opportunity on others. It's easy to say, well, they didn't support me. They didn't believe in me. They didn't let me in. But that's not the real story. The real story is you believed you needed them to say yes in the first place. And when you believe that, you chain yourself to their permission. You let their silence become your stop sign. But the ones who succeed, the ones who live full and bold, are the ones who realize early that no one can grant them a life of meaning. That's a self-issued pass. That's a self-initiated movement. They don't wait for the industry to recognize them. They create something worth being recognized. They don't wait for credentials to prove their value. They let the results speak louder than any title ever could. And here's another secret. Even when you do get permission from others, if you don't believe in yourself, it still won't be enough. External validation is a fleeting hit. It feels good in the moment, but it doesn't last. Because until you validate yourself, you'll always need someone else to do it. And that's a trap. That's a cycle that never ends. Because people are fickle. They cheer one moment and criticize the next. One day you're a genius, the next day you're delusional. So if you hinge your action on their opinion, you'll never build anything stable. You are the permission, you are the authority, you are the decision maker in your own life. The world doesn't owe you an invitation. You're already here, you're already capable, you already carry everything you need inside you. The only question is, will you use it or will you keep waiting? Because the longer you wait for permission, the more power you give away, and power unclaimed becomes regret, not because you weren't good enough, but because you never acted like you were. Most people are spending their lives searching for something that's already in front of them. They keep chasing, seeking, wandering through ideas, waiting for that one magical opportunity to knock at their door, unaware that the door is already wide open. The problem isn't the absence of opportunity. The problem is the inability or unwillingness to recognize it when it's right in front of them. We've been taught to think that opportunities come dressed in grandeur, that they show up with fanfare, big signs, and obvious pathways. So when it arrives quietly, wrapped in discomfort, disguised as hard work, risk, or even failure, we overlook it. We walk right past the very thing we've been asking for, simply because it doesn't look like what we imagined. But here's the truth. Opportunity is not always a dramatic moment. It's often subtle. It doesn't always feel like a breakthrough. Sometimes it looks like waking up earlier. Sometimes it sounds like a challenge. Sometimes it feels like being uncomfortable, uncertain, and unqualified. But it's there. It's always there. Opportunity is abundant, but attention is scarce, because you can't seize what you don't see. People are waiting for the right conditions. They say things like, "I'll start when I have more money. I'll launch when I have more time. I'll go for it when I feel ready." But that's a delayed tactic dressed up as wisdom. Because readiness is a decision, not a destination. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll spend your life on standby. The conditions will never be perfect. The moment will never come wrapped in certainty. Opportunity doesn't wait for you to feel confident. It responds to action. The door is already open, but you're still standing outside, checking your outfit, rehearsing your lines, waiting for applause before you step in. You're worried about who's watching, who will judge, who will doubt. And while you're worried about perception, you're missing participation. Life is not a rehearsal. You don't get a second take. This is it. This moment, this space, this chance, it's yours right now. We often say we're waiting for a sign, but more often than not, the sign already came. It came in the form of a restless feeling, a sleepless night, an idea that won't leave you alone. It came in the form of someone asking for your help, complimenting your skill, pointing out something you didn't even realize you were good at. But because it didn't look like a flashing billboard or an undeniable miracle, you brushed it off. You labeled it not yet, when it was really go now. People miss opportunity because they expect it to look like the final product. But opportunity rarely shows up as the dream fully formed. It shows up as raw material. It shows up as a challenge to grow into the person who can handle the dream. It shows up as responsibility before reward. And if you don't recognize it, you'll walk right past it, chasing shadows and calling it ambition. There are people sitting on gifts, skills, talents, and ideas right now, acting like they're waiting for the universe to deliver something new, when in reality, everything they need is already in their possession. The opportunity has been delivered, but they haven't opened the package. They're still checking the tracking number, thinking it's on the way, not realizing it's already arrived. Fear makes us second. Guess what's already available? Doubt makes us blind to what we already have. Instead of stepping into the moment, we question it, we analyze it, we compare it to other people's paths and convince ourselves that theirs is more legitimate. So we sabotage our own journey while admiring someone else's, never realizing that they only got where they are because they walked through a door that looked just as uncertain, just as small, just as ordinary as the one you keep ignoring. You think the opportunity is coming, but it's been here. It's been calling. It's been knocking. You're not waiting for it. It's waiting for you, but it won't wait forever. It's moving. Opportunity has momentum. And if you don't match its pace, it will move on to someone who will. Because the truth is, opportunity doesn't chase people. It meets them where they act. Some people will spend years trying to find what was always around them. They'll move cities, change careers, switch relationships, all in search of something external, when the real shift needed to happen inside. It wasn't the lack of opportunity, It was the lack of awareness, the lack of willingness, the lack of belief that the door that appeared ordinary could lead to something extraordinary. Every second you hesitate is a second someone else uses. While you are sitting on your idea, doubting your ability, questioning the timing, someone else is out there executing. They're not more talented, not more educated, not more connected. They're just moving. They're taking steps while you're taking notes. They're making progress while you're making excuses. They're acting on the same dream you're still talking about. Waiting feels safe. It feels smart. It gives you a sense of control. It tricks you into thinking you're being wise and calculated. But there's a difference between preparation and procrastination. You know when you're stalling. You know when you're avoiding the discomfort of stepping into something unfamiliar. And deep down you know this. The longer you wait, the colder the opportunity gets. Time doesn't pause for your comfort. Life doesn't hold open doors forever. Every missed chance becomes someone else's momentum. Opportunities are living things. They move, they shift, they evolve. If you don't catch them when they show up, they don't always circle back. People say what's meant for you won't pass you by, but that's only true if you're moving toward it. If you're standing still, if you're stuck in hesitation, what's meant for you will walk right by and find someone who's ready. The job you didn't apply for because you thought you weren't qualified, someone else with the same doubt applied and got it. The business idea you had but never launched, someone else ran with something less polished and made it work. The moment you passed on because it wasn't perfect, someone else seized it and found perfection in the process. The difference wasn't talent, it was timing, and timing belongs to those who move. We live in a culture that glorifies perfection. We think we have to have it all figured out before we begin. That mindset is the killer of momentum, because perfection is an illusion. It's a form of fear dressed up in high standards. It's not that you're not ready. It's that you're afraid to be seen starting from the beginning. You're afraid of not being good enough yet. You're afraid of failure. But failure only happens when you wait too long to start. There are people out there right now winning with half the tools you have. They don't have your education, they don't have your experience, but they have urgency, they have courage, and because of that, they're getting ahead, not because they're better, but because they refuse to sit still. They understand that the cost of waiting is too high. Every hour you spend overthinking is an hour someone else is building. Every day you spend doubting is a day someone else is developing. While you delay, they deliver. People say they're waiting for the right time, but what they really mean is they're waiting for fear to disappear. That moment never comes. Fear doesn't leave. You don't get rid of fear by waiting. You get rid of fear by walking through it. Action dissolves doubt. Movement builds momentum. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. The longer you wait, the heavier your excuses get. Waiting doesn't prepare you. It paralyzes you. Life has a rhythm. It has a current. And when you hesitate, you move out of sync with that flow. You miss the window, you miss the wave, and when it passes, you convince yourself it was never meant for you. But it was. You just didn't move fast enough. You were too busy analyzing, comparing, perfecting. You were waiting for clarity when what you needed was courage. The danger of waiting is that it becomes a habit. You wait once and it's easy. You wait again and it becomes normal. Before long, you become someone who almost did something great. You become someone with stories about what could have been, instead of results that prove what is possible. The dream never died, it just sat too long, and dreams, like opportunities, decay when neglected. Some people are obsessed with getting it right, and because of that, they never get it done, but finished beats perfect every time. The person who launches an imperfect idea gains feedback, growth, and experience. The person who waits until it's flawless gains nothing but frustration and regret. Movement multiplies potential. Stagnation drains it. People often think time is their ally, that they have more of it, that they'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow isn't promised, and even if it is, your opportunity might not be. The doors that are open today might close by the time you're ready. The connections available to you now might be gone later. The world moves on. It doesn't freeze until you feel brave enough to participate. While you hesitate, life reallocates. It redirects blessings to the ones who show up. Waiting feels responsible, but too much of it becomes a reason for missed chances. The truth is, most people don't fail because they tried and lost. They fail because they never tried at all. There is a dangerous illusion that holds more people back than failure ever could. It's the myth of perfection, the belief that before you act, everything needs to be in order. Your timing must be exact. Your skills must be flawless. Your plan must be airtight. You must have total confidence, total clarity, total certainty. That is the myth. And millions of people are living under its shadow, doing nothing, waiting endlessly, paralyzed by the pursuit of something that does not exist. Perfection is not preparation. It's not wisdom. It's fear in disguise. It's control dressed up as patience. People tell themselves they're not starting because they want to do it right. What they're really saying is, I'm afraid to mess up. I'm afraid to be judged. I'm afraid to look like I don't know what I'm doing. That's not strategy. That's self-sabotage. You will never be perfectly ready. You will never know every step before you take the first one. You will never be free from doubt, uncertainty, or discomfort. Growth requires exposure. It demands movement. It demands you begin before you feel ready and learn while you're in motion. No one ever became excellent by waiting for the perfect moment. They became excellent by showing up again and again in imperfect conditions. The myth of perfection keeps people stuck in theory. They're experts in planning, experts in researching, experts in talking about what they're going to do someday. But life does not reward potential. It rewards action. Plans are useless if they're never executed. Ideas are meaningless if they're never put into practice. You could have the best concept in the world, but if you're waiting until it's bulletproof before you launch, someone else will beat you to it with a version that's only halfway there. Because it's not the most perfect that wins. It's the most consistent, the most courageous, the ones who start messy, improve publicly, and adapt as they go. There are no overnight successes. There are only people who started before they were ready and kept going, while others were still hesitating. They understood that momentum is greater than mastery, that you can't master anything from the sidelines. You have to get in the game, get your hands dirty, get knocked down, and get back up. Perfection tells you to wait until you're not afraid. But that moment never comes. You don't beat fear by waiting. You beat it by doing. The longer you wait, the stronger fear becomes. It feeds on your hesitation. It grows in the space between your decision and your action. The sooner you start, the smaller it becomes. Action shrinks fear. Perfection magnifies it. We are surrounded by filtered realities. Social media shows us the end result, not the struggle. We see the polished product, not the messy process. So we assume that what we're doing isn't good enough, that our draft isn't clean enough, that our first attempt isn't impressive enough. But every masterpiece began as a mess. Every expert was once a beginner. Every confident leader was once scared out of their mind. What separates them from everyone else isn't that they were betterats, that they kept going when they felt unqualified. Perfection is a moving target. You think you'll start when it feels just right, but once you get there, the goalpost moves. You think you'll launch when the timing is perfect, but by the time that window comes, your doubts have grown bigger. Perfection tells you you're not there yet, and no matter how far you go, it keeps telling you that. It's a trap. It's a loop. and if you don't break free, it will consume your potential. There is a point where preparation becomes paralysis. Yes, study, yes, learn, yes, grow, but there comes a time when more information won't help you. It's just delaying the leap. You don't need more books, more podcasts, more opinions. You need to decide. You need to act, because clarity comes from doing. Confidence comes from progress. You don't become ready before you begin. You become ready because you began. People aren't watching to see if you're perfect. They're watching to see if you're real. Authenticity is more powerful than polish, showing your process, your flaws, your growth. That connects, that builds trust. Nobody believes in perfect, but everybody respects progress. People relate to those who show up, not just those who shine. If you wait until you're perfect, you'll never show up. You'll never publish the book, never launch the business, never make the call, never take the risk. You'll sit with everything inside you, undeveloped, unused, and unshared, all because you thought it needed to be flawless first, but nothing meaningful ever started perfect. It became meaningful because someone had the guts to do it imperfectly and improve along the way. Change does not happen in thought alone. It does not arrive by waiting, by wishing, or by wondering. Change is not a result of having the best intentions or the most inspiring ideas. It is not born out of potential, hope, or preparation alone. Real, lasting change, personal, professional, emotional, financial, only begins the moment action is taken. Not planned, not promised, not rehearsed. Action is the beginning and end of transformation. You can think about doing better. You can talk about growing. You can dream all night about the life you want, but none of that makes it real. It becomes real the moment you move, the moment you break the cycle of hesitation, the moment you stop imagining and start building. Until then, you're just circling around change, not creating it. So many people feel stuck because they think they need more clarity, more confidence, more time. But what they really need is movement. Because motion builds clarity, progress builds confidence, results build momentum, but none of that shows up until you take the first step. That one small move, the one that seems insignificant or scary or incomplete, is the match that lights the fire of change. We live in a world where people mistake activity for progress. They think talking about a goal is the same as pursuing it. They feel good making lists, outlining plans, attending events, gathering advice. But those things are only tools. Tools do not build anything on their own. You have to pick them up and use them. A hammer doesn't build a house. A pen doesn't write a book. A plan doesn't change a life. What does action? You can't think your way into a new life. You can't overanalyze your way into growth. At some point you have to move, you have to try, you have to risk failure, risk discomfort, risk looking foolish. And that's why most people never change, because the moment of action is the moment of exposure. It's the moment where talking ends and doing begins. It's where your comfort zone gets challenged and your excuses get tested. People say they want change, but they don't want to pay the price. They want the result without the risk. They want the transformation without the transition. But change doesn't respond to convenience. It responds to courage, and courage only shows up through motion. The moment you act, everything shifts. Not because the world around you changes instantly, but because your posture toward the world changes. You stop waiting and start shaping. You stop reacting and start creating. You become a participant in your own future. The mind will come up with every reason not to act. It will remind you of every failure, every fear, every flaw. It will tell you to wait for the right time, the right conditions, the right feeling, but those are lies, designed to keep you safe, yes. But safe is not where growth lives. Safe is not where change happens. Change lives in the risk, in the leap, in the stretch, and it begins with that one brave moment of action. Think about any major shift in your life, anything you're proud of, anything that moved you forward. There was a moment where you had to decide, a moment where you had to stop thinking and start doing. That moment was the bridge between the old you and the new you. That was the moment that mattered. Not the perfect plan, not the endless preparation, that one action, that phone call, that decision, that conversation, that first step. That was the seed of the change. You can have the right mindset and still get nowhere if it never turns into movement. Belief without behavior is just a theory. Intention without execution is just imagination. Vision without action is just a fantasy. You don't change your life with promises. You change it with patterns. With consistency, with choices that get repeated, refined, and reinforced over time. Action turns the invisible into the visible, the idea into the result, the potential into performance. It takes what's in your head and brings it into the world. Until you do that, your idea is just a prisoner in your mind. Action sets it free, it makes it real, it gives it form, and once it's real, it can grow. It can be tested, improved, scaled, but you never get to that point if you never move. There is no change without friction, no growth without disruption, but none of it begins until you decide that staying where you are is more painful than the fear of where you're going. The mind resists this truth because it wants to protect you. But growth doesn't live in protection. It lives in process, and process begins with action. So many are sitting on power they've never used, gifts they've never shared, dreams they've never pursued, all because they haven't taken that first courageous step. They keep preparing to begin, hoping to feel ready, waiting for signs, but change doesn't answer to hope. It answers to energy, effort, and execution. You don't get different results with the same habits. You don't become a new version of yourself by thinking about it. You must act and act again and act again. That is how things shift. That is how lives are built. That is how transformations happen. You've been standing in front of the door, hand raised, heart pounding, waiting for a sign, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for someone to give you what you've had all along. But now you know, the door has been open. It's been open the whole time. You don't need permission to walk through it. You don't need more proof that the opportunity is real. You don't need to wait while others pass you by. You don't need perfection before you begin. What you need is motion. What you need is fire. What you need is to move. Because only action creates change. You were not made to stand still. You were not made to beg for access to a life you were built to live. There is no more knocking. There is no more waiting. No more second guessing. The door is open. Walk through it. And don't look back.